Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you stand at the threshold of the most powerful creative moment in your entire day. Not when you wake up energized and ready to conquer the world. Not during those busy afternoon hours when you're pushing and striving for what you want. But right here, in this quiet surrender, as consciousness begins to soften and the day dissolves into darkness. Most people have it completely backwards. They exhaust themselves chasing their desires in the harsh light of day, then collapse into bed defeated, hoping tomorrow will somehow be different. But what if I told you that the very moment you've been treating as an ending is actually the beginning? That this gentle descent into sleep isn't rest from creation, but the deepest entry into it. There's something Neville Goddard discovered about this sacred hour that changes everything. A secret hidden in plain sight, practiced by mystics for centuries, yet so simple a child could understand it. Tonight you're going to learn why reality has no choice but to follow when you do this one thing before sleep. Not because you're forcing it, not because you're working harder, but because you're finally working with the very fabric of creation itself. I'm so grateful you're here with me tonight, wherever in the world you're listening, whatever time it is in your corner of the universe. There's something beautiful about sharing this ancient wisdom across time and space. Let's step into the teaching. Picture two people with the same desire. The first person wakes up every morning with a burning want in their chest. They make lists, they set goals, they push through obstacles. They network, they hustle, they pray desperately during lunch breaks. They check their bank account obsessively, refresh their email constantly, scan every opportunity with hungry eyes. By evening, they're exhausted from the chase, collapsing into bed with that familiar ache of not enough, not yet, maybe tomorrow. Now picture the second person. They want the same thing, but something in them has shifted. They don't chase. They don't grasp. Instead, they carry themselves differently. They move through their day as if what they desire is already theirs. Not pretending, not faking it until they make it, but genuinely feeling the satisfaction of having arrived. When evening comes, they slip into bed with quiet gratitude, sinking into sleep as someone who lacks nothing. Which person do you think manifests their desire? The one fighting against reality or the one resting in it? The one reaching for their dream or the one already living from it? Here's what Neville discovered that revolutionizes everything. The universe doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your assumption. And there's no more powerful time to assume than in the moments before you sleep. Neville called it the state akin to sleep. Not sleep itself, but that drowsy, dreamy borderland between waking and sleeping where something extraordinary happens. Your rational mind begins to quiet. Your defenses dissolve. Your inner critic steps aside. In this twilight consciousness, you enter the most fertile creative state available to human awareness. This isn't just relaxation. This is the secret laboratory where miracles are manufactured. Think about it. When you're fully awake, your logical mind argues with every desire. It lists all the reasons why you can't have what you want, all the obstacles, all the impossibilities. But in this drowsy state, logic loses its grip. The impossible becomes possible. The critical mind that usually guards the door to your subconscious simply falls asleep on duty. Here, in this sacred in-between, your imagination doesn't just create pictures, it creates impressions. And impressions, once accepted by the subconscious, must express themselves as experience. This is where the magic happens. Not when you're trying hard, but when you're barely trying at all. Not when you're forcing your way into a new reality, but when you're gently sinking into the feeling that it's already yours. This drowsy state is your direct line to the creative power that shapes worlds. It's where assumption becomes experience, where I am becomes I have, where tonight's feeling becomes tomorrow's fact. Now, let me walk you through the sacred practice that transforms sleep from passive rest into active creation. This isn't complicated. In fact, its simplicity is what makes it so powerful. But treat it with reverence, because you're about to engage with the very mechanism through which consciousness creates reality. First, prepare your inner sanctuary. As you lie in bed tonight, don't simply collapse from exhaustion. Enter this space deliberately. Turn off all devices. Let the external world fade into background. This is your time to commune with the creative force within you. Breathe slowly and allow your body to grow heavy, but keep your awareness gently alert. You're not trying to fall asleep immediately. You're entering that drowsy borderland where miracles are made. Now comes the sacred act of assumption. Choose the desire closest to your heart. Don't visualize it as something you want. Feel it as something you have. This is crucial. Neville taught that visualization without the feeling of having accomplished nothing, but assumption, the feeling of already being what you desire to be, already having what you desire to have. This is the key that unlocks every door. Let's say you desire financial freedom. Don't imagine yourself hoping for money. Don't picture yourself working toward wealth. Instead, feel the deep satisfaction of already being financially free. Feel the peace in your body, the gratitude in your heart, the quiet confidence of someone who lacks nothing. Sink into this feeling until it feels natural, until it feels true, until you can rest in it completely. Or perhaps you desire healing. Don't imagine yourself sick and hoping to get better. Feel yourself as already whole, already vibrant, already restored. Let your entire being resonate with perfect health. Feel the energy flowing freely through your body, the strength in your limbs, the clarity in your mind. The key is this: assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, then simply let go. Don't effort, don't strain, don't check to see if it's working. Just rest in the assumption that it is already done. Because in the realm of consciousness, it island. But what happens when you wake up the next morning and nothing seems different? What about when days pass and your outer circumstances appear unchanged? This is where most people abandon the practice, thinking it doesn't work. But here's what Neville understood that changes everything. The silence between assumption and manifestation isn't emptiness, it's incubation. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up the next day to check if it's growing. You water it, you tend the soil, you trust the process. The same patience applies to consciousness. Your assumption, felt deeply in that sacred state before sleep, has been planted in the most fertile soil imaginable. Your subconscious mind, now it's working beneath the surface, reorganizing your reality in ways you cannot yet see. The mistake most people make is confusing patience with waiting. Waiting is passive. Waiting is hoping something will happen. But patience, true spiritual patience, is the active persistence of assumption. It's continuing to feel yourself as the person who already has what you desire, even when the outer world hasn't caught up yet. Think of it this way. If you placed an order online and received a confirmation, you wouldn't keep placing the same order every day. You would simply live your life, knowing the package is on its way. The same principle applies here. Once you've truly felt your desire as fulfilled in that drowsy state, you've placed your order with the universe. Now your job isn't to keep ordering, it's to live from the assumption that it's already yours. The temptation will be to check for results, to look for signs, to doubt when things don't immediately change. But every time you check, you're actually assuming lack. Every time you doubt, you're impressing the subconscious with the feeling of not having. This is why Neville taught us to persist in assumption regardless of what the senses tell us, because consciousness is the only reality, and if you change consciousness, the outer world must follow. This is where the real transformation happens, learning to live from the end rather than toward it. It's one thing to feel your desire fulfilled in that drowsy state before sleep. It's another thing entirely to carry that assumption into your waking hours, to let it color every thought, every decision, every interaction. When you truly live from the end, you don't hope for your desire to manifest. You move through your day as someone for whom it already has. If you've assumed financial abundance, you don't anxiously check your bank balance. You feel the inner security of someone who has enough. You make decisions from abundance, not scarcity. You speak from prosperity, not lack. If you've assumed perfect health, you don't constantly monitor your body for symptoms. You feel the vitality coursing through your veins. You move with the confidence of someone whose body serves them perfectly. You think the thoughts of a healthy person, make the choices of a healthy person, radiate the energy of someone who is whole. This isn't about pretending or acting as if. This is about a fundamental shift in identity. You're not trying to become someone who has what you want. You're recognizing that you already are that person. The outer world simply hasn't caught up to this inner truth yet. Notice how differently you walk when you feel successful versus when you feel like a failure. Notice how your voice changes when you feel loved versus when you feel rejected. Notice how your entire energy shifts when you feel abundant versus when you feel lacking. These aren't just psychological differences. They're energetic transmissions that the universe reads and responds to. Every moment becomes an opportunity to reinforce your assumption, not through effort or strain, but through the simple recognition of who you are. When someone asks how you're doing, you respond from the person who already has their desire fulfilled. When challenges arise, you handle them as someone who knows everything is working out perfectly. When doubts surface, you gently return to the feeling of already being who you desire to be. What you've just learned isn't simply a bedtime technique. It's a glimpse into the fundamental nature of reality itself. Neville taught that imagination is God, not a poetic metaphor, but literal truth. The same creative power that spoke worlds into existence lives within your consciousness. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled in that sacred state before sleep, you're not hoping the universe will respond. You are the universe responding. This practice before sleep is actually a form of prayer, not the begging, pleading kind that assumes separation between you and the divine, but the prayer of recognition, the prayer that acknowledges you and the creative force are one. When you feel your desire is already fulfilled, you're not asking God for something. You're remembering that you are the God of your own experience. Every night becomes a sacred appointment with your own divinity. Every descent into sleep becomes a descent into the creative workshop where tomorrow's reality is fashioned. This isn't metaphysics or philosophy. This is the practical application of the deepest spiritual truth. Consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being, you become. The beautiful paradox is this: the simpler you make it, the more powerful it becomes. You don't need complicated rituals or elaborate visualizations. You simply need to feel, in that drowsy state before sleep, that you already are who you want to be. You already have what you want to have. And then trust that consciousness, being the only reality, must express this assumption as experience. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, remember that you're not just ending another day. You're entering the most creative moment available to human consciousness. You're stepping into your role as the author of your own reality. Reality has no choice but to follow when consciousness leads with absolute conviction. This simple practice you've learned tonight connects you to something timeless and infinite. Every mystic, every sage, every awakened being throughout history has discovered this same truth. I am is the name of God. Not was, not will be, but I am. Present tense, eternal now. And that divine I am lives as your very consciousness. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled before sleep, you're not manipulating reality from the outside. You're recognizing that you are reality creating itself. The same consciousness that dreamed the stars into existence is dreaming your life into form. The same imagination that conceived galaxies is conceiving your tomorrow through your assumptions tonight. This isn't just about getting what you want. It's about remembering who you are. You are not a small, separate self hoping for scraps from an indifferent universe. You are the universe individualized, consciousness expressing itself as you, the divine creative power wearing your name and living your life. So rest tonight knowing that your deepest desires aren't wishful thinking. They're remembrances of who you really are, calling you home to your true nature. Sleep well, divine creator. Your reality is waiting to be born through your dreams. If this touched your soul, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what you're ready to assume as already yours. Sweet dreams.